Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Earth's last remaining orbital defense station, her weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as she watched another colony evacuation ship limp into orbit. The vessel's hull bore the distinctive purple scarring of Meridian weapons fire, a sight that had become all too familiar in the past 3 years of war against the alien collective. "How many made it out?" she asked, knowing the answer would add to the weight already crushing her shoulders. 412 survivors from New Genesis, Admiral. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tight. Out of a colony of 15,000. Chen closed her eyes, adding these numbers to the mental tally she'd kept since the war began. 37 colonies lost. Billions dead or displaced. The Meridian Collective's campaign of systematic destruction had been as efficient as it was ruthless. The aliens had appeared without warning at the edges of human space, their massive crystalline ships defying every known law of physics. Their first communication had been simple. Your species represents an unacceptable variable in the equation of existence. Then the slaughter began. Humanity's most powerful weapons barely scratched their ships' living crystal hulls. Their energy shields absorbed nuclear detonations like ripples in a pond. Their quantum-entangled communications made tactical surprises impossible. But worst of all was their ability to predict human military movements with unprecedented accuracy, as if they could calculate the thoughts of every admiral and general before they even formed. "Admiral." Rodriguez's voice cut through her thoughts. "Dr. Patel is requesting your presence in Lab Zero. She says it's important." Chen turned from the window, noting the slight tremor of excitement in her aide's usually stoic demeanor. Lab Zero was the designation for their most classified research facility, buried deep within the lunar core. Few knew of its existence, and fewer still knew of the desperate projects being pursued within its walls. The quantum shuttle ride to the lunar facility was brief, a testament to one of the few areas where humanity had managed to keep pace with Meridian technology. Dr. Arya Patel met her at the airlock, the physicist's dark eyes bright with an intensity Chen hadn't seen since the war began. "We found it, Admiral," Patel said without preamble as they walked through sterile white corridors. "The reason they can predict us so accurately. It's not calculation, it's observation." They entered a vast chamber dominated by a massive quantum computer array. Holographic displays showed complex mathematical formulas that made Chen's head spin. "Explain," she ordered. "The Meridians aren't just advanced aliens, Admiral. They're multidimensional beings using our three-dimensional space as a testing ground. They can see every possible future branching out from each moment. That's how they predict our moves. They literally see them all before we make them." Chen felt her blood run cold. How can we possibly fight an enemy that can see every move we make before we make it? Patel's smile was fierce. "Because we figured out how to do something they clearly believe is impossible. We've found a way to create quantum uncertainty at a massive scale, a blind spot in their perfect vision." She gestured to a strange device in the center of the room, a spherical construct that seemed to shift and blur when viewed directly. "This is the quantum void generator. When activated, it creates a bubble of pure quantum uncertainty, a space where multiple futures exist simultaneously until observed. Inside this field, nothing is predetermined. Not even they can see what will happen until it does." Chen stared at the device, the first spark of real hope igniting in her chest. "Can we weaponize it?" "Better," Patel replied. "We can build ships around it. Ships that would be invisible to their precognition. Ships that could strike from what would appear to them as literal nothingness." For the first time in 3 years, Admiral Chen felt her lips curl into a predatory smile. The Meridians had declared humanity an unacceptable variable in their equation. It was time to show them just how variable humanity could be. "How long to build a fleet?" she asked. 6 months, if we throw everything we have left into it. We'll need to construct them in places they'd never think to look. The cores of unstable stars, the event horizons of black holes. places where quantum uncertainty naturally exists. Chen nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. Do it. And Dr. Puddle, when you design these ships, make sure they can hit hard. When we step out of their blind spot, I want their first indication of our existence to be their last. As she left the lunar facility, Chen looked back at Earth hanging in space, its once pristine continents now scared by meridian attacks. Soon, she thought, humanity would teach these multidimensional beings a lesson about underestimating three-dimensional creatures. Sometimes the simplest equation could yield the most devastating results. Deep within the Carina Nebula, where radiation storms and quantum fluctuations made conventional sensors useless, humanity built its salvation. The shipyards of Project Aurora stretched across an invisible network of gravitationally stable points, hidden from both conventional detection and the Meridian's multidimensional sight. Captain Maya Santos drifted in her EVA suit, supervising the final assembly of the quantum drive core for the flagship Nightshade. The massive vessel before her represented humanity's greatest technological achievement and their last hope for survival. Core stability at 99.8%, reported Chief Engineer Zhao over the comm. The quantum uncertainty field is holding steady at maximum amplitude. Maya watched as the crystalline lattice of the drive core pulsed with an inner light that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. The technology that Dr. Patel had pioneered had come a long way in 6 months. Each ship in the Aurora fleet now generated its own bubble of quantum uncertainty, making them not just invisible to conventional detection, but literally unpredictable to the Meridian's multidimensional perception. Admiral Chen's shuttle is approaching, Captain, her XO announced. ETA 3 minutes. Maya turned to watch the approaching vessel, its own uncertainty drive making it appear as a ghost-like blur until it entered their ship's quantum bubble. The effect was still disconcerting, even after months of working with the technology. The Admiral had aged years in the past 6 months, but her eyes burned with the same intensity Maya remembered from their first meeting. "Walk with me, Captain," Chen ordered as she stepped onto the Nightshade's deck. They moved through corridors lined with technology that hadn't existed half a year ago. Quantum-entangled neural networks that could process combat decisions faster than human thought. Probability weapons that could target every possible position of an enemy simultaneously. Schrödinger drives that could place a ship in multiple locations until the moment of attack. "The Meridians hit New Mars this morning," Chen said quietly. "Another colony gone. But they're getting sloppy, overconfident. Their attacks are following predictable patterns now." Maya nodded. "They think they've broken us. That victory is just a matter of time and probability." "Exactly." Chen stopped at a viewport, staring out at the fleet taking shape in the nebula's heart. "How many ships combat ready?" 15 as of today. Another 20 will be ready within the week. Each one equipped with the full suite of quantum technologies and staffed by crews who've trained in quantum uncertainty combat scenarios. The Admiral's expression was grim but satisfied. The Meridians see themselves as beings of pure mathematics, calculating every possibility, controlling every variable. But they've never encountered true uncertainty before. Never faced an enemy that could step outside their elegant equations. Maya studied the fleet alongside her commanding officer. The ships were unlike anything humanity had built before. Their hulls were composed of metamaterials that could shift their fundamental properties in response to attack. Their weapons were designed to exploit the very nature of quantum uncertainty itself. But most importantly, every vessel was crewed by humans who had learned to think in terms of probabilities rather than certainties. "We've confirmed their command structure," Maya reported. 7 primary nexus points where their multidimensional consciousness intersects with our spacetime. Hit those simultaneously, and their entire collective will be thrown into chaos. Chen turned to her, eyes fierce. "And that's exactly what we're going to do. But first, we need to make them absolutely certain they know where we'll strike next. Their own arrogance will be their undoing." The plan was audacious. While the Aurora fleet remained hidden in its quantum bubble, the remaining conventional forces would be positioned to suggest a desperate last stand at Earth. The Meridians, seeing every possible future through their multidimensional perception, would calculate a 100% probability of victory and commit their entire force to a final, crushing blow. They won't be able to resist, Maya said. Their mathematical nature won't allow them to leave any variables unresolved. They'll want to end this war in one decisive stroke. And that's when we'll show them that some variables can't be resolved. Some equations can't be solved. Chen's smile was cold. Humanity isn't just some number to be eliminated from their cosmic calculation. We're the chaos factor they never accounted for. As if to emphasize her words, the quantum drive core of the Nightshade pulsed, sending ripples of probability cascading through the ship. In less than a week, those ripples would become a tsunami that would reshape the very nature of space-time itself. Maya looked at her ship, her crew, and the fleet they had built in secrecy and desperation. Soon, they would teach the Meridians that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their numbers, but in their ability to embrace uncertainty and turn it into a weapon. The quantum silence was deafening. Captain Maya Santos stood on the bridge of the Nightshade, surrounded by a fleet of 35 ships that existed in a state of pure probability. No communications passed between vessels. They couldn't risk even quantum-entangled signals that the Meridians might detect. Every ship and crew member knew their role in the coming battle. There would be no room for error. Multiple Meridian signatures detected at the edge of the Sol system, her tactical officer reported. Massive fleet movements. They're taking the bait. Through the quantum-filtered displays, Maya watched as the crystalline shapes of Meridian warships began appearing in ever-increasing numbers. Their vessels were things of mathematical perfection, each facet and angle calculated to express complex multidimensional equations. But today, that perfection would become their weakness. Admiral Chen's voice came through their one-time quantum cipher. All Aurora vessels, initiate Operation Ghostwind. May probability favor the bold. Maya felt a slight shiver as the Nightshade's quantum drive core pulsed, sensing with the rest of the fleet. Each ship now existed in a superposition of states, their exact positions and trajectories impossible to calculate, even for beings that could see across dimensions. Begin temporal displacement, she ordered. Take us into the probability shadow. The view outside shifted, reality becoming fluid as the Aurora fleet slipped into the spaces between moments. They would approach their targets through the quantum foam of space-time itself, emerging only at the instant of attack. Through their quantum sensors, they watched the Meridian fleet assemble for what they believed would be their final victory. Their ships formed perfect geometric patterns around Earth, each position mathematically optimized for maximum tactical advantage. Maya could almost feel their confidence, their certainty that they had calculated every possible outcome. They've taken position around all 7 nexus points, her XO reported. Their command and control structures are fully deployed. They're committing everything. Maya nodded grimly. The Meridians' need for mathematical perfection had made them predictable. Each nexus point, where their multidimensional consciousness intersected with normal space, was surrounded by layers of their most powerful warships. Deploy probability anchors, she commanded. The Nightshade released quantum beacons that would ensure the Aurora fleet could navigate back through normal spacetime after the attack. In the quantum realm they now occupied, such precautions were essential. As they waited in their quantum bubble, Maya thought about the nature of their enemy. The Meridians weren't evil in any conventional sense. They simply couldn't tolerate uncertainty in their perfect mathematical universe. Humanity, with its chaos and free will, represented a fundamental flaw in their equations. Their attempt to eliminate humanity was, to them, no different from a mathematician correcting an error. All ships in attack position, tactical reported. Quantum alignment at optimal levels. We can strike all 7 nexus points simultaneously. Maya took a deep breath. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. Initialize quantum collapse sequences. Prepare to bring all probability waves into alignment on my mark. The bridge hummed with tension as final preparations were made. The quantum drives of 35 ships spun up to maximum power, each preparing to tear a hole in the fabric of reality itself. Remember, Maya transmitted to her crew, we only get one shot at this. When we emerge, we'll be briefly visible to their multidimensional senses. Every ship must strike its target in that first instant, before they can calculate a response. She watched the tactical display as the final Meridian ships locked into their perfect formation. Their enemy's certainty in their own victory had drawn them into precise, predictable positions, exactly as planned. All ships report ready, her XO announced. Maya's hand hovered over the quantum trigger. In less than a second, they would remind the universe that sometimes the most elegant solution to an equation was to shatter it completely. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. She pressed the trigger, and the Ghost Armada prepared to bring chaos to order. Reality shattered as 35 ships of the Aurora fleet collapsed back into normal spacetime. The Nightshade emerged directly inside the defensive sphere of the largest Meridian nexus point, its quantum wake disrupting the perfect mathematical harmony of the alien formation. For a fraction of a second, Maya saw the impossible geometry of the Meridian command ship through unfiltered eyes, a crystalline structure that existed in more dimensions than the human mind could process. Then all hell broke loose. All points emergence confirmed. Tactical shouted. Quantum targeting solutions locked. Fire everything. Maya commanded. The Aurora fleet unleashed its full arsenal. Probability torpedoes split into quantum superpositions, striking their targets across multiple possible timelines simultaneously. Schrödinger beams existed in states of both absolute power and perfect stealth until the moment of impact. Reality itself seemed to crack as weapons designed to weaponize uncertainty, slammed into ships built on the principle of perfect mathematical order. The Meridian response was immediate but uncoordinated. For the first time in their existence, they faced an enemy they couldn't predict, attacking from vectors their multidimensional senses couldn't properly process. Their perfect formations began to break apart as ships tried to adapt to an enemy that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. Direct hit on Nexus Point 1. Maya's tactical officer reported. Quantum cascade failure detected in their command structure. Through the quantum-filtered screens, Maya watched as the first Meridian nexus point collapsed in on itself, the multidimensional consciousness that occupied it being forcibly ejected from normal spacetime. The effect rippled through the enemy fleet, their ships suddenly moving with less coordination, less certainty. Multiple Meridian vessels attempting to calculate attack vectors, her XO reported. They're trying to establish targeting solutions. Maya allowed herself a grim smile. They can try. Initiate attack pattern, quantum echo. The Nightshade split into 5 quantum shadows, each one as real as the others until observed. Other Aurora ships did the same, turning their tight formation into a probability cloud of potential targets. Meridian weapons fire passed harmlessly through quantum ghosts while real ships struck from unexpected angles. Nexus points 3 and 4 confirmed destroyed. Tactical's voice was thick with suppressed excitement. Their command network is fragmenting. The battle space had become a chaos of quantum uncertainty. Meridian ships, unable to calculate safe vectors through the probability storms created by the Aurora fleet, began colliding with each other. Their weapons, designed to strike targets whose positions could be perfectly predicted, found themselves hitting empty space as human vessels shifted between quantum states. Admiral Chen is reporting success at Nexus Points 2 and 7, Maya's XO announced. Only 2 remain. But the Meridians weren't finished. As their command structure crumbled, individual ships began acting on their own initiative. A massive crystalline dreadnought materialized next to the Nightshade, its weapon ports glowing with enough power to vaporize a small moon. Evasive action, Maya shouted, but she knew they couldn't move fast enough. The dreadnought fired, and its beams passed through 5 quantum shadows before the Nightshade's true position was revealed. But that moment of revelation was all her crew needed. "Quantum spike drive at full power," her engineer reported. "Ready on your command." "Do it." The Nightshade's quantum core went into overdrive, creating a bubble of pure uncertainty around the Meridian dreadnought. For a crucial second, the massive ship existed in all possible states simultaneously, and none of them were combat-capable. Maya watched as the crystalline vessel tried to resolve itself back into normal spacetime, its perfect mathematical structure unable to handle the quantum contradiction it had become. The dreadnought imploded, torn apart by its own impossibility. "Nexus Point 5 is down." Tactical's voice was hoarse. "Last target remaining." Maya turned her ship toward the final Nexus Point, where Admiral Chen's task force was already engaged. The Meridian ships there were fighting with desperate intensity, as if they finally understood that they faced not just defeat, but extinction. "All ships, converge on final target," Maya ordered. "Let's finish this." The Aurora fleet moved as one, their quantum drives synchronized to create a cascade of uncertainty that overwhelmed the Meridian's remaining defensive calculations. The last Nexus Point, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with multidimensional energy, found itself surrounded by ships that existed in quantum superposition. Fire. 35 ships unleashed their remaining weapons simultaneously. Probability torpedoes and Schrödinger beams struck from every possible angle across multiple quantum states. The Nexus Point's defenses, designed to counter attacks from normal spacetime, proved useless against weapons that existed in states of quantum uncertainty until the moment of impact. The structure collapsed in on itself, taking the last remnant of the Meridian command consciousness with it. Throughout the solar system, Meridian ships began to drift, their perfect mathematical formations dissolving into chaos as their guiding intelligence vanished from reality. In the days following Operation Thunderstrike, humanity discovered that victory came with its own kind of uncertainty. The massive crystalline ships of the Meridian fleet hung in space like abstract sculptures, their crews not dead, but simply gone. When the Nexus Points collapsed, the multidimensional beings that had controlled these vessels had been expelled from our reality, leaving behind only their technological shells. Admiral Chen stood with Captain Santos on the observation deck of the Nightshade, watching teams of scientists and engineers carefully approaching one of the abandoned Meridian dreadnoughts. Earth gleamed behind them, its scars visible but healing. "The quantum physicists are calling it the greatest scientific opportunity in human history," Chen said, her voice thoughtful. "The Meridians left behind technology that operates on principles we're only beginning to understand." Maya nodded, remembering the strange geometries and impossible mathematics they'd witnessed during the battle. "But we've learned to be careful with advanced technology, haven't we? Especially after what Dr. Paddle discovered in the captured databases." The discovery had sent shockwaves through human space. The Meridians hadn't been humanity's first visitors from higher dimensions. They had been more like cosmic gardeners, pruning realities they deemed chaotic or imperfect. Humanity wasn't their first target, but they were the first to fight back successfully. "Speaking of Paddle," Chen turned to Maya with a slight smile. "She's proposing something interesting. She thinks we can use modified quantum drives to search for other civilizations that survived Meridian culling attempts. There might be others out there, hiding in their own bubbles of uncertainty. And if we find them?" Maya asked, already suspecting the answer. "Then we help them. We teach them what we've learned. The universe is vast, Captain, and we now know it has more dimensions than we ever imagined. But we also know something the Meridians never understood. Perfect order isn't the natural state of existence. Change, chaos, uncertainty, these aren't flaws to be corrected. They're opportunities to be embraced." Through the viewport, Maya watched as a research vessel successfully docked with the Meridian dreadnought. Already, humanity was adapting the alien technology, finding ways to integrate it with their own quantum innovations, but they were doing it carefully, thoughtfully, always maintaining the delicate balance between advancement and wisdom. "We're getting reports from the outer colonies," her XO reported, approaching with a datapad. The quantum communication network is fully operational again. Everyone's asking the same question. What happens now? Chen took the pad, studying the reports with practiced efficiency. Now we rebuild. We expand. But most importantly, we remember. The Meridians failed not because their technology was inferior, but because they couldn't accept the fundamental truth that humanity had embraced. The future isn't meant to be perfectly predicted. It's meant to be shaped. Maya thought about the battles they'd fought, the lessons they'd learned. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not just technologically, but philosophically. They had proved that adaptation and uncertainty weren't weaknesses. They were the keys to survival in a complex universe. The quantum drive cores, she said suddenly, remembering something that had been nagging at her. During the final battle, when we created those bubbles of uncertainty, I felt something. Like we weren't just hiding from their mathematical predictions. We were touching something fundamental about the nature of reality itself. Chen nodded slowly. Dr. Patel has a theory about that. She thinks we didn't just develop a new technology. We discovered a truth about existence that even the Meridians, with all their dimensional awareness, had missed. The universe isn't a perfect equation to be solved. It's an endless series of possibilities waiting to be explored. As if to emphasize her words, a quantum ripple passed through the fleet, a reminder of the new forces humanity had learned to harness. But unlike the Meridians, they would use this power not to impose order, but to protect the beautiful uncertainty of existence. We've received requests from 17 different colony worlds, Maya's XO reported. They all want to host research centers for studying the Meridian technology. And there's more. Some of our quantum physicists think they've detected anomalies that might be attempts at communication from elsewhere. Other dimensions, Maya asked, or other civilizations that learned to hide in quantum uncertainty, just as we did. We might not be alone in our resistance against the Meridian's vision of perfect order. Admiral Chen smiled, her eyes on the stars beyond the viewport. Then we'd better prepare to make some new friends. After all, if there's one thing humanity's learned, it's that the most beautiful patterns emerge not from perfect calculation, but from the chaos of cooperation and creativity. The quantum drive of the nightshade hummed softly, a reminder that humanity now sailed not just through space, but through the very fabric of probability itself. They had faced the mathematical perfection of the Meridians and proved that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't certainty, but the courage to embrace the unknown.